Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon, a retired NYPD detective with 20 plus years of law enforcement. And if you like all things true crime related from a police perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. And tonight we're going to talk about Orrin and Orson West, the two California City boys, both at the time at a Bakersfield, reported missing December 21st of 2020 by their adoptive parents. They were both 3 and 4 years old. Now they are 4, and one is going to be 5 years old next month in August. We haven't forgotten about them. It's over 200 days these boys are missing, and justice has to be served. We need to find our boys. Where are the boys? And I will never give up. This channel, as you know, sponsors the billboards, the digital billboards in Bakersfield. We've spent over $5,000 on digital billboards to bring awareness for Orrin and Orson West, sincere and classic. And we've also put up $4,000 in reward money. So that's close to $10,000 coming from this live stream from All right. I think we're back. I apologize for the technical. Listen, as a retired police officer, retired detective, I'm not technologically advanced. So we are back. We are back live, and I apologize for the difficulties. I don't know if that was the internet gods doing that, but we were talking about Orrin and Orson West. My screen went blank, but thank you for everybody hanging out and staying in here. Again, missing over 200 days. I'm going to show you guys a quick clip, and then we're going to move forward on my next guest that I have. My next guest, when I bring him on, you guys are going to love him. He has some great insight. So let me share the screen for you, and let's play a little bit of the media from Orrin and Orson West.
We are still actively working, and we're going to continue to work, as we've said, until we know what happened to these young men. Periodically, we've released information to inform the community about where we are and all that we've been doing in the investigations. We'll certainly continue to do that periodically, but make no mistake, this is very important to us. A lot of resources have been devoted to this, and we will continue to work until we have the answer.
Are we at a point where we're starting to see this case, in fact, go maybe a little cold?
No, we are still actively pursuing leads and information. Information, as you said, comes in periodically. We have a person dedicated to it. We have other resources that are collaterally assisting him in this investigation. We are still following up on some information, and we will continue to do that.
What is the best thing for people to do at this point?
If you know something, say something. Even if you think it might be minimal, or you think we might already know, that's what's most important. I appreciate our community's interest in this. These are two young boys who have gone missing, and it's not been explained. This should concern us all, and it does. So if my best advice is somebody knows something, to say something.
So there you have it, folks. Orrin and Orson West reported missing by their adoptive parents December 21st. Trezell and Jacqueline West have not been seen since their press conference. They have not come out and searched with the community. There's a lot of community unrest. And joining me, my next guest is a retired New York City police lieutenant. Him and I went through the police academy together. We've been friends for over 30 years. Dr. Darrin Porcher, thank you so much for joining the live stream. It's been a minute. Welcome to the show.
As always, a pleasure, DutyRon. It's great to appear on the broadcast.
You know, Darrin, since last time you've joined me, we spoke about so many different crime cases. This one hits home for me. As you heard, our channel is sponsoring the digital billboards in Bakersfield, California. We've been following this case since December 21st closely, and we've been doing a lot of pinpoint live streams to bring awareness. Two boys out of Mojave Desert area, just as as his adoptive parents said, he was inside getting firewood to make a fire. It was a cold evening. He had the two boys outside in a fenced-in backyard. He went in, came back out, and poof, they were gone. What's your thoughts on this case? I know this is a tough one for the folks out there to grasp, because it's not often that two little kids just vanish into the night. Police are working steadily on this case, and a lot of the folks in the community are wanting answers, and we're not getting answers out of the parents. No cooperation whatsoever.
My experience in cases like this, missing persons cases of this magnitude, specifically involving children, the longer they're missing, the lesser your chances of them being revealed as being alive. So, that being said, I just think that, and I want to maintain a level of optimism, but just based on the facts that have been presented, I think it's more unlikely that the kids will be found alive than likely. And it goes back to, we hear the constant sentiment of defunding police. And I know you didn't ask me about defunding the police, but this is how that folds into the narrative of this particular case. Police need an immense level of resources to investigate cases of this magnitude. We need manpower. We need the tools that are necessary to effectively engage in a search for these kids. And when we look to cutting the budgets or defunding the police, it ultimately hurts the community. And this is a clear example of the community being behind an endeavor of these kids being found. However, the resources haven't been effectively injected into that police department. And so it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. The longer these kids are missing, the more doubtful I am that they would be revealed as alive.
Good afternoon,
Right,
and thank you.
Right. And again, as I was playing some media, as I was listening to what you're saying, again, as the time goes by, you said it so well, the chances of these boys found alive are slimmer and slimmer. And you know what? Most folks just want to have closure. They want answers. So they look to the police and they say, why are we not getting answers? Now, the FBI, the Bakersfield Police Department, I know Kern County sheriffs have been working on this. So it's a multi-agency thing from the beginning. They were originally reported out of California City, but they lived in Bakersfield, which was 70 miles from California City. The Bakersfield Police Department, which is about 500 plus members of the service, have taken over the lead on the case. They have dedicated detectives. They have the Kern County sheriffs, which is a search and rescue. But most folks, we wear our heart on our sleeve and we're all emotional about it. These two little boys deserve justice and to be brought home, to either be laid to rest or to be brought back alive, as we hold on to that glimmer, that small slither and glimmer of hope. But so many people are just frustrated. The community, the adoptive parents are being uncooperative, and that's what's making people come and point the fingers at them, because they came out once and then they never came out again. December 23rd, I believe, was the last time they were heard from. In your experience with this, when you have uncooperative either parents or adoptive parents, what's the take? Community unrest, and what's the look on this, Darrin?
I was a detective years ago, and one of the things that I always made mention to is you can't look at the trees, you have to look at the forest. The trees would be the parents. The forest would be the ecosystem that's connected. So the parents are being uncooperative. what we have to do now is employ that gumshoe detective work, that ground and pound, door to door. That's where police work is most effective. In many instances, we may not have a person that can elicit information to us, such as the parents in this case. So this is where the detective work comes into play, knocking on doors. Who's the last person that saw them? What were the conflicts in these kids' lives? Now, granted, because they're small children, there's not going to be a tremendous level of conflict. You're not going to have an ATM or a credit card that you can follow a financial pathway with these kids. You're more than likely not going to have a cell phone that you can ping from cell phone towers. So now this is where the ground and pound comes into play. We want to look at video that's encompassed within that area as to where was the last time these kids were seen? Did they go into a convenience store? Were they seen at a gas station? These are things that law enforcement is going to fold into their file or dossier as to where they were last seen. And what we do is we refer to something that we call a backwards investigation. That backwards investigation starts from the last time these kids were seen, and then we progress forward. It's an arduous task. I heard the chief of police make mention to this is not a cold case. It is a cold case because it's gone unsolved for a period of time. The longer it takes, the tougher it is. However, I believe law enforcement is fit for the challenge. And fortunately, we have a multi-agency component that's focusing on this, coupled with the FBI, state police, and localized police departments. And they can collaborate amongst those the departments that are working on this. And I'm hopeful that something will come up in connection to where the remains for these kids would be found.
Very well said. And, you know, Darrin, to add to what you said, you know, not only were there multiple search warrants and searches in open fields conducted, the numbers are astronomical. I'm not going to get into them here and bog you down with these figures, but I can tell you that there's a lot of work that's been done on this case. There's tons of search warrants, tons of evidence, tons of electronic, and FBI's forensics lab is probably busy with cell phones, electronic devices, and they are keeping that close to the vest. They're not releasing the information. You want to just talk briefly about the importance of law enforcement? You were a lieutenant and you did investigations in the NYPD, the largest police department in the nation. Talk about the importance to keeping stuff close to the vest and not exposing your cards, so to speak.
Confidentiality is of optimum importance because oftentimes in doing an investigation, you're focusing on something that we refer to as leads. That's what a common person would see it as, a lead. Your lead may not always be 100%. Therefore, you don't want to compromise the information that you have by revealing this information source to the public, because someone that may have information may also understand that the police may possibly getting close, maybe gaining ground. So that individual, meaning a possible suspect, wants to be more surreptitious about what they're doing, but they want to know what police are doing. The police can't reveal their hand to what the fruits of the labor of the investigation, how it's been entailed. Therefore, it's best that you gather as much information as you can within a confidential nature, and then you reveal it in accordance to how you're taking your investigative steps. And I think that the police do have a series of leads, and they're just not introducing this. But just remember, going back to doing investigations, you can have several leads. And there's many times I've been wrong initially. My gut feeling told me to follow this pathway based on the investigational steps that I'm astute to. But I may run into a dead end. This is something that the detectives can run into as well. But you don't want to reveal that hand, and you just want to ensure that you have as much resources as possible to ensure that it takes you to the position that you're most comfortable being in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't get that, but I've been saying that all along, and thank you for reiterating that. It's important for these investigators to keep the pieces of the puzzle so they're ready to put them all in place. When you reveal your cards, it's sometimes, you're giving the bad guy, so to speak, an upper hand. If the bad guy knows what you got, it gives them a chance to redirect or move things around or make it a little more difficult. Now, as human beings, and as you know, listen, we're all parents here, or grandparents, or aunts, uncles to, you know, small children and grown children, and we all want to see justice served. We want the long arm of the law to grab whoever is responsible for Orrin and Orson West's disappearance, and we also want to bring closure to the family. The biological mother is heartbroken. There's two fathers, one for each of the boys. They're heartbroken. The community is devastated. I personally have communicated with Roro. She is the cousin on the bio side. She is running ragged there in Bakersfield. She's handing out signs, posters, billboards, flyers, and these adoptive parents have just gone silent. They did put up a tremendous reward. $25,000 came from the adoptive family side, but you haven't heard much from them. Granted, there's people out in front of their houses, the grandparents, and they're at some point or another, they were out kind of asking, where are the boys, peacefully. Nobody's throwing rocks or breaking things. But, you know, this is the kind of unrest that is underlying with this community. And over 200 days have gone by. Thank you to all the folks in the chat. There's about 350 folks here in the chat. I want to just acknowledge quickly, Darrin, you have a lot of fans here on Crime Time with DutyRon. People have just been waiting for you to come on. Diane, thank you for the super sticker. Deborah Page, thank you for your generous donation. Lieutenant Pete Pranzo, Harlem Raiders, thank you for being in here. Retired NYPD Lieutenant Pete Pranzo, always great to see you. Dawn Marie, moderator, Yelfa. I'm just saying hello to folks, and if you're new, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Dr. Darrin, you and I have trained in the police academy together. You know, we've seen so many missing person cases resolve themselves, meaning a child goes missing. We start searching within housing developments and all of the concrete jungle that we worked in. There's so many big places to, you know, to look, nooks and crannies. But an overwhelming majority of these cases, I had Mark Class from the Class Kids Foundation. As you know, his daughter was brutally murdered and raped at a young age in Petaluma, California in 1993. I had him on the show, and he said the first 24 to 48 hours are important, and it's important that the parents clear themselves with the police so they can continue to help and put input in the case. Here, I'm not so sure if they've cleared themselves, but I do know that the police say that they are cooperating. So can you just talk quickly, because I've said it 100 times, but sometimes when folks hear it from somebody else, when the police say the parents are cooperating, what would that entail in your professional opinion as a police executive?
When the parents are cooperating with police, they're providing a comprehensive overview as to what the movements of the kids in particular, such as these two individuals. Like, look, all right, the last time I saw them, they were playing with this. This is what they were wearing. This is what they like. This is what they don't like. This is what they have an affinity to do. Their kids always wanted to go to a certain place. This is information that is presented to police by the parents. Now, I've heard very sketchy details. On one side, I've heard that the parents were cooperating, and then on another side, I found that the parents were not as forthright as they should be. So that's where you have to bone up on your investigative skills as a detective. And it goes back to what I mentioned before. You can't just focus on the trees. You need to focus on the forest, because that ecosystem of the forest is what's going to lead you down the pathway to eventually find these kids. And, you know, the younger the kids are, such as an age like this, the more challenging it is, because when we take in consideration technological innovations, as I mentioned earlier, such as cell phones, social media, things to that effect, those are essential tools that we use in law enforcement to try to gain cryptic messages that we'll see on social media or pinging cell phones. And it's highly reduced when you have kids of this age. Therefore, we want to rely upon the parents more so now than ever before, because they're such a young age. So going back to the cooperation of the parents is key. However, we also need to corroborate information that comes from additional sources, such as the next door neighbor, a pre-K teacher, kids that attend that same pre-K. It's that amalgamation of different information sources that come into the fold that assist law enforcement to go on the right path or endeavor to recover these kids as a result.
Yeah. And, the thing of it is, too, is what is confusing to many people, like you said, parents are being told, well, the police are telling us that the parents are cooperating, but what we're seeing on the surface is non-cooperation. The story doesn't jive, Darrin. You talked about the any type of evidence, whether it be surveillance. We have a neighbor who has a surveillance camera that looks straight at their property. The father, the adoptive father, said that the two boys were in the backyard and they got out of a gate. The surveillance footage shows that story is hogwash. It is bull. So there was never at any time, we had never any time saw anyone go up to the backyard, to the gate, nor the gate open, nor the kids come out of the gate. So this is why common folks and law enforcement retired professionals, we say that this whole story stinks to high heavens, that they're full of crap. There's never been any talk of lie detector, polygraphs, nothing given out by the law enforcement that are investigating. The story just doesn't jive. It doesn't make sense. And this is why people are severely frustrated, because with all of this on the table, you would figure that the detectives would maybe get them in and really choke them, so to speak, for a lack of better terms, put them in the corner, get them in the box, and give them a good once over or twice over, and get them to come clean with the story. Just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. 3 and 4 years old in the Mojave Desert, they searched that area immediately as soon as they reported them missing. So Sergeant Cannon and I, Bill Cannon and I, we've come to an agreement, and many other professionals come to an agreement, that those boys were never in California City, that they went missing or whatever happened to them. They met their demise in Bakersfield. And that's why the investigation, I feel, is in Bakersfield, because that's where they were living before they moved to California City. So that's what we have. I'm going to turn to the chat here quickly. If you don't mind, Darrin, I know you're busy. You got a heck of a schedule. Dr. Darrin Porcher is a law enforcement correspondent on many networks. I'll let you take it over because I'll screw it up. I know CNN, Fox, Headline News, Court TV. I could just rattle off all day long. If you want to add to it some of your maybe more current pieces that you've been doing, I'd like to link that down below if you want to tell the audience what you do.
I think that you gave a clear reflection as to what I do. I generally speak to topical issues in relation to criminal justice and law enforcement, and I present it from an expert's perspective as to things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a sniper incident, mass shooting, or a police-involved incident. I generally will opine on these topics on a lot of the major networks. And that's kind of what I do. In addition to that, I'm a professor at Pace University. I teach criminal justice. And I want to say my real job is actually, I'm an expert witness, and I testify in these cases all over the country, whether it's the Jacob Blake case up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I speak to, or I testify in a litany of these different cases. And so what we're speaking to right now is just, it falls within the purview of the genre that I'm a part of.
Outstanding. And a lot of your work, my followers and people who subscribe to Crime Time at DutyRon, as you know, they follow you and they send you messages, and Darrin is very good about getting back to folks when you leave them a message. So you could follow him on Twitter. I will link his social media down below in the description. I'm going to go to some questions if you don't mind. Police Off the Cuff, thank you for the $50 super chat. I'm going to now have to give that to Darrin. He's going to take that as his fee, and then I'll owe him. He'll send me an invoice at the end of this. Just kidding. Darrin and I are good friends for a long, long time. We go back 30 years in the police academy. We trained together. We were in the same company. He used to push me and say, "Come on, Licardi, if you drop out of this run, I'm going to beat your ass." So he would always keep me in the fight. Jennifer Nobles is from Bakersfield. She works closely with the family, the biological family. She says, $10 super chat. Why are the custodial parents, meaning the adoptive parents, talking? Why are the custodial parents, meaning the adoptive parents, talking? Meaning, why aren't the adoptive parents talking? I know that's what you might not have typed it out right. Why are they not questioned publicly besides one time? I don't understand the logic. Please explain, Dr. Porcher. So, Darrin, she's saying, why did they only agree to one news media conference and is now not meeting with the press to say, hey, where's my babies? I want my children back. They have been under public scrutiny, but I get what Jennifer's saying is, why aren't they willing to speak more about what's going on? Why have they shut down? And this would just be a constructive guess by Dr. Porcher.
Well, generally, these investigations should occur in a police facility, not within the news media. So there may be germane components of discovery that the parents would elect not to present in front of the news cameras, but this information would be forwarded in a police facility. And I'm just speaking to you from a hypothetical perspective. It could also be a situation where the parents are not providing the essential details as to what happened. But as an investigator, you don't want the parents to shut down or close ranks. You want to try to maintain that open lane of communication as best as possible. Many people look at this and say, hey, well, why don't you lock these kids? Why don't you lock the parents up? And that's how you can force them to give you information. It doesn't work that way. When you watch good cop, bad cop on television, they seem to have immense levels of success. But the art of persuasion is good police work. That's a true investigation. And so that being said, that is just, I'm giving you a clear hypothesis as to what my assessment of this is. And the investigation should occur in a police facility and not in front of a news camera.
Right. And I agree 100% on that. And there's no question that they may have been brought in and re-questioned, because as investigators get different or go down different roads, as leads come in, they may need to have them come back and re-interview them. But what I think Jennifer was saying is, why wouldn't they willingly speak to the press if they are in fact not guilty of the disappearance of their children, pleading? And like for me, and I know for you, Darrin, you have, a beautiful daughter, you would be screaming at the top of the rooftops, where's my daughter? Where's my kid? Right?
Well,
I think
Ron, not to interrupt you. I mean, that's what I meant. That I stand behind the investigation should happen in a police facility, not in front of a news camera. But you also have to understand, whenever an investigation is done on an individual, there's a very thorough and comprehensive background done on the parents. And there may be information about the parents that they may be unwilling to introduce to the public, such as the parents could be drug users. The parents could be a part of, let's say, stealing money from the government. There's a litany of different reasons why people won't impart that information in front of a news camera. Case in point, if someone was to do an investigation on me, for example, I can be incurably innocent, but I may be very uncomfortable speaking to specific details in front of a news camera, because there are things within my life that I may not want to be public. So you have to take that into consideration as well.
Right. Yep. Very well taken. It's just a matter of frustration. And I get how everybody feels, because I've been covering this case on basically a daily basis. I wake up in the morning, I look for anything new coming out of Bakersfield. I subscribe to all the media there. And, Vinny Politano, I think that's how his last name,
On Court TV. Yes.
Yeah,
I know Vinny.
Yeah.
I do the show.
Yeah. So you've done the show with Vinny. He has talking about this. He's spoken about this case multiple times. He's had Bayan Wang from 23 ABC, which I also had on my show. He's come on and we've talked about this case. He no longer is in Bakersfield. That reporter moved to Denver, but I'm still in contact with him. So again, it's our human hearts. Everybody's heart is broken over this. There's also, and I'll throw this out to you, and I'm going to get what your vibe would be on this, because you may not know about it. Let's just say hypothetically there was a detective that removed these kids from the biological parents. Darrin, do I have your attention? I know
Yes.
you multitask, but I'm okay. So you can hear me. The parents, the parents have one of the children removed from them by a police officer at the time. Now circle back 3 years later or so, might be a little bit less. That same officer now is the lead detective on on this missing children's case. Do you see any type of controversy with that, or would that be within the scope of his geographical area employment and within the scope of his work?
Well, from different departments, they deal with things differently. I just find that whenever there's a conflict of interest, I feel that it's best suited for you not to engage that. Out west, things are done differently with the smaller departments because you have a smaller pool of personnel that have the effective skill set to work on cases of this magnitude. Whereas, like a place like New York, we look at missing persons. You have, hundreds of detectives that have the skill set that's comparable to work on a case like this. So you can always switch people out. And if you feel if there's any level of a conflict of interest, then you're just not going to use that person. So, but when you go to these smaller departments, it's a very different agenda. So I think that's what you need to lend deference to. What is the culture in that department? And is this something that they just don't have they just don't have the qualified personnel that are capable of switch them out?
Right. And he was a police officer when he removed the one child that had a broken femur bone or broken bone in its leg. And in California, unlike here in New York, they make the decision. In California, the police make the decision. I've clarified this. I've gotten verification of it. I've spoken to a Kern County sergeant. In New York, as you know, we don't do that. We would call child welfare. They'd come onto the scene and they make the decision. I know you were, supervisor. You rose up into the ranks. You went from police officer to detective to sergeant and then to lieutenant. In California, the police officers make the decision. Child welfare doesn't make it. But he did take this child away from the biological mom. And now, fast forward, we have him alleged as the lead detective or investigator on the case. Again, this decision doesn't get made by that detective. His supervisor puts him on that case. I just want you to touch on that. I mean, the paramilitary type organization runs straight through, I would say, arguably through the United States in our police departments. Bakersfield is a department of around 500 cops, give or take. Don't hold me to that number, but it's right around 500. It's a decent sized department. So, who in your eyes would make the decision to put this guy on the case? It's not done by a detective. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, Ron, I just sent you a text message and I just kind of gave you a very elaborate piece of it. And I just kind of want you to look at that as I'm giving you my answer to that question. Generally speaking, there's a chain of command from the investigational track that'll make that determination or that assessment. You usually have a line detective that's generally the person that catches these cases. And then you have a supervisor that manages that line detective. Like in the NYPD, we'll have a sergeant. But in a place like Bakersfield, they may have a corporal, and then you'll have a sergeant, and then you have a lieutenant. And you can have situations where it can go directly to the chief of detectives in a place like Bakersfield. I think because it's a smaller department, it's 500 people, but some people may not see that as a small department. You may see that as a large department. But although you have 500 cops in the department, not all 500 of those officers work in the investigational track. So you may have situations where they can connect directly with the chief of detectives, and that's where the marching orders or the edict was come from. But by and large, it's the line detective that will make these decisions okay, I think that this is the prudent course of action, and they'll kick, meaning they'll extend their how they feel in terms of what direction they want to move in, and the hierarchy will say, okay, look, we're okay with this or we're not okay with it. In addition to that, like a lot of these smaller departments work in unison, or I should say they have the symbiotic relationship with the district attorney's office, where you have a district attorney that works on child cases or missing persons cases that will run in tandem with what that detective is doing. So it can be a combination of the district attorney's office and the chain of command that are collaborating with the line detective as they move forward in connection with the investigative steps.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Darrin. And I know you have a lot of, you have a lot of engagements. You got things to do. So what I'm going to do is, if you could, would you please come back again sometime when you have time to
Absolutely.
talk about this case? Most of my guests are fascinated with your perspective and your take on this stuff. We value your opinions, and we know that they're fair and impartial. So it's always great to have you, my friend, my brother from another mother, Dr. Darrin Porcher, a 20-year veteran of the police department, a 30-year friend of DutyRon. I know Darrin personally. We trained in the police academy together. He's a legal law enforcement correspondent. He is fantastic. I will link all his stuff down below. Darrin, thank you so much for joining. You want to say good night to everybody? A little bit of a
good night to everyone, and your listeners are highly astute, and they have a genuine understanding of the foundation of law enforcement. And it's a privilege and a sincere pleasure to impart the knowledge that I have to your listeners, because this is the group of people that really understand and they get it. And I thank you for having or allowing me to impart my knowledge base on your platform.
And I look forward to you picking up another lunch, and I will order the most expensive thing on the menu. I'm looking forward to having a nice lunch with you soon, Darrin. So I'll speak.
Sounds good.
Take care, man. Thank
All
you.
right, take care. All right,
you,
brother.
Bye-bye.
God bless you and your listeners.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
All right, guys. So we did this one quick. Dr. Darrin is a busy fella. We're going to have him come on. We are going to dive into Trezell and Jacqueline West and some of the takes that we have. Him and I spoke in depth about Jacqueline and Trezell West. We're going to get into it. We're not giving up on this case. As far as I'm concerned, this is an active investigation. It's continuing and ongoing. I pray every day. I said every morning when I get up, I look at the news and I make sure that I get the feed coming out of California and Bakersfield in particular. So I am invested in this. I have to say, these boys, Sincere and Classic, are part of my family. I am emotionally attached to this thing, and I feel like, all of us here are attached to it. Hello to Felicia Wills. Thank you so much for being here. There she is. Uncle DutyRon is here, and we are talking about our boys. We're talking about our boys. Jennifer, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate Ro and all of the great folks that are over in Bakersfield, California. By a show of hands, put a 1 in the chat if you appreciate these updates and you want me to continue to speak about Orrin and Orson West. I will continue to bring, irregardless of the ones in the chat, I will continue to bring you updates as I see them fit on this case. We have the digital billboard that is still going on until the end of the month. I'm going to continue with that digital billboard as long as I can do it. I need the generous donations to continue to come in so we can fund for August going into September. I don't have enough to continue August going into September, but I anticipate towards the end of this month that we will do another fundraiser and we'll get that fundage up and we'll find a way to continue the Bakersfield digital billboard. I think it's a very important thing to have their faces out there and to have people speaking in a respectful way, in an intelligent way, and have a conversation, because we are strong in numbers. United we stand, divided we fall. And for all of us to come together and to put our minds together and critically think and to bring professionals to the table and also bring regular laymen, people who are out there, and we need to have everybody speak about how they feel, because we have emotions. All of us have feelings. And if you think you're hurting in the UK or Australia or in New York or in Texas or in Florida, think about how the people are hurting in Bakersfield, in California City, and everywhere in between. Lancaster, all over the place in that area. These folks are heartbroken. and their emotions are all over the place. One day they're angry, one day they're sad, one day they're angry, one day they're mad. It is a really difficult thing to go through, and nobody will have an understanding of it unless, God forbid, you go through it. And you know, me as a police officer and as a detective, I used to deal with families on a regular basis that had their loved ones missing, and it's no joke, and it's nothing that you would wish onto your worst enemy. So I say that with extreme conviction, and I say that with my heart in the right direction. Again, you know, Orrin and Orson West, Sincere and Classic, are part of my family. They're a part of the DutyRon Crime Time family. We've been speaking about them for many, many months, and over 200 days have passed. We still don't have answers. We're just left holding the bag. And at the end of the day, folks, we need to get answers. We need to know what happened to Sincere and Classic, Orrin and Orson West. SP 5P, thank you for the $20 super chat. Ryan Investigative Group, thank you so much. Bring the boys home, says Billy Ryan, another great first grade detective. Appreciate you being in here from the Arson and Explosion Squad. Bill Ryan has his own private investigation company. There it is, Ryan Investigative Group. I appreciate you being here. Danny, thank you for the $5 super chat. DutyRon, you're the epitome of what a law enforcement official should be. I wish they all had your heart. Thank you. P.S. Mrs. DutyRon is beautiful. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate that. I really do. Those kind of messages, really, I appreciate them tremendously. You guys are great, really great. I'm fortunate to have such wonderful people here. Again, much love and respect from my house to yours. We'll do more of these live streams, and I am going to have a professional come on soon where we're going to talk about Sincere and Classic, Orrin and Orson West. And we are going to talk about Summer Wells together in a conjoining live stream where I'm going to talk about the similarities in the stories that are being put out by both parents from these three children that are missing. Summer Wells from over in Tennessee, just a similar set of circumstances. No two are the same, but the stories between both the adoptive family here in California and the biological family in Tennessee, the stories stink to high heavens. They stink. So I'm going to have an open discussion about that, and we're going to get into it. And, it doesn't make anything better, but it helps when we can speak about it, when we can get together and not argue and talk over each other and yell and scream and call each other bad names. It's healthy for you to have that conversation because it helps to ease the pain in the heart. So I think these are good, not just for the family, but I think it's good for the community, for all of the folks who have different levels of frustration, anger, and just confusion. So these are good things. I think it's a good thing all around. Let me know by putting a 1 in the chat if you're in agreement on that. I want to see how many people agree with me. And some of you might say, DutyRon, that's bullshit. Oh, that's bull. I let the S word go. Sorry, guys. Let me know. Diane Wilson, good night, and thank you for being here. Hi, Inner Peas. Jennifer Noble says, where are the boys? A lot of ones flying through the chat. Felicia Wills, there she is. Love and respect to you and your family, as always. Jennifer chiming in. Crystal, thank you, Keisha. Who else is here? I want to just make sure I say hi to everybody. Dawn Marie, Kimmy. Factual Breakdown, thank you for your support. Okay. All right, guys. So let's end it. We're at almost 45 minutes. I want to just say a lot of love and respect comes from New York to California to Bakersfield and the folks boots on the ground. Keep up the good work. Keep on getting his name out there, the boys' names. Keep them out there. Keep pressing for answers. But again, let's do this with respect and dignity. Let's do this the right way. You've always got my support no matter what. I will do the best I can to continue those digital billboards, and I will do my best to talk about sincere and classic on a regular basis. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Princess Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for being in here. Sarah has an H. Thank you, Sarah, with an H. That's a great name. Guys, I'll talk to you soon on the next one. Love and respect from DutyRon and the community here. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat and all victims of crime and their families across the globe. Good night from New York City. Love and respect. And there's Roro. She just made it in at the end. Thank you, Uncle DutyRon. I'm taking an exam, but my sis Felicia Wills is listening to me. Thank you, guys. I'll catch up with you soon. Roro, do good on the exam. Forget about YouTube, and I will talk to you guys soon. Good night from New York City. Thanks for watching, and make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up and share it out onto your social media. Let's keep the boys out there. Good night, guys. Peace.